Hi, my name is David J Stubbs. And this episode will be how did I learn how to study and how did I turn my D's and F into A pluses and A minuses. You know, I get a lot of messages or DMs, whatever they call them, from special education teachers. Because as y'all know, I went from special education to an academic real history maker. So them teacher asked me, how did you learn how to read? How did you learn how to read? And I tell them how I learned how to read, so they can pass it on to their kid. And some of them even say they teaching about me now. And when I went over my history with the White House, we didn't thought about that. You know what I mean? President Clinton didn't mention me. He just mentioned I'm an academic real history maker. But then I remember, man, I'm an academic real history maker, and I was in special education or special needs. That should be some kind of feat. Cause who go from special education to an academic real history maker? Have anybody in history ever done that? I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, after Jeff Wilson learned me how to read, my grade was still, it went from C minus to C plus. Oh man. Jeff, what can I do to get my grades up? My grades still ain't going up that much. He say, Doom, man, all you do is drink and fight. He said, we never saw you study in 2 years. We even talk amongst ourselves, Doom. And say, man, Doom must be smart or something. Why Doom don't study? And we all just assume that you were just naturally smart. And I said, no, man, they ain't necessarily smart, man, but I thought when I learned how to read, my grade gonna go up. He said, no, Doom, you got to study. And he said, now we too close to finals. He said, he said, we're too close to midterm. He said, I learned you how to read, but you got to, I think I talked to Salacio, right? So I'm the kind of, don't want Salacio to know how I read. You know how man is. I ain't even want no man to know I couldn't read. I went to Jeff out of desperation. So Jeff come back and he said, man, Salacio say she'll learn you. Be to her room at 8 o'clock. So I go to Salacio room. She read the Bible for an hour. Then we hold hands and pray. Then she say, show me all your books. And we go into each one of my books. And then this thing I know, we doing it 5 days a week. And then I asked her, Salacia, how do you study when I leave your room 12 o'clock at night or 1 in the morning? She say, oh, after you leave, I study from 1 in the morning till it's time for me to take the test. I'm like, wow. Time for that class. I felt so bad. But she said, we finna find a way for you to study to make it easier. She said, show me how you study. I said, well, Jeff just got me reading the chapter and it gets so boring I lose focus. She said, well, I'm finna learn you a fun way of studying. I'm gonna turn it into a game show. And you would take that game with you everywhere you go. Right? So she put the question on front of an index card. She put the answer on the bike. So we made like 50 index cards because I had a test coming up in this certain class, right? And it worked. I made an A plus for the first time ever on a midterm, right? So I'm like, wow. So the next test, she did it again. She put the question on the front, the answer on the back. So I'm going everywhere with these index cards, I'm going, don't nobody know what I'm doing. They just say, man, we ain't never seen Doom study that much. We ain't never seen in the lunchroom, I'm on the index card. In class, I'm on the index card. At night, I fall asleep with the index card. I'm drinking. I fall asleep with the index card. So I'm making A's and B's. Well, at first I wasn't making A's and B's. So I went to Jeff. And I say, Jeff, man, she learning me how to study, but I'm still making C's, and now I'm kind of making B. That way in the beginning. And Jeff say, Doom, I think if you study while you drunk, because I learned you how to read by making you get drunk. And we go over the reading. He said, you learn how to read being drunk, bro. He said, but let me tell you one thing. If you study while you drunk, because you drank all day, he said, but I get it. You under extreme pressure because nobody else in the history of college got to worry about the Ku Klux Klan bringing a man for you to fight 24 hours a day. A complete stranger. He said, and even when you beat them, you got to watch your back because you don't know what Klan group they in, you don't know what their family capable of doing, and you don't know what their friends capable of doing. So I get it. Everybody you fight is right in your closet. They want to hurt you. He said, but you got to find time, Doom. You got to find time. But if you study while you drunk, I would advise you to take the test while you drunk. And I know it sounds weird, but that works. I go into class so drunk sometimes, they got to give me a pencil and show me where my desk at. Or sit me down. Even the teacher look at me and say, son, I can't tell you what to do. But in no way you going to pass this program being drunk every day. Right? That's what the teacher used to tell me. And when it come time for the test, now this was a hard class. Her name was Glenn Skanky. She was one of the hardest teachers in the golf program. And we go to take her midterm. They helped me in my seat. She looking at me, shaking her head. And she say, everybody, the test is 45 minutes. I advise you to take the full 45 minutes. And I jumped up to 15 minutes. I say, use it as a checking guide. She say, son, in no way you pass the test in 15 minutes. I have professors that took this test from the University of Florida and didn't pass it, or barely pass it. I advise you to sit down for the full 45 minutes. I say, just like I say, lose it for a checking guide. Right? I walk out of class. This time we go to class, they call your grades out loud because that was one of the tricks they used to try to make me quit college because I couldn't read. So they called tests out loud, and the lady said, David Stubbs, 100. The whole class like, oh. They're all looking at me like I'm a god. Even the teacher say, I don't believe it. I don't know how you're doing it. I don't know how you're doing it, but just keep doing what you're doing. And she became one of my biggest fans, so to speak. She told me that I'm a natural and all this stuff before she resigned. But she was my first case of discrimination I seen. To a woman. She had all the qualifications to be director, but they picked Mr. John, who was a plant professor, you know what I mean? But they picked him to be over golf because they were so racist. They didn't want a woman to be over the golf program. Why, I don't know. But when they didn't pick Gwen, she quit. And I don't blame her. But that was the first case of discrimination I saw in my life. All the students were sad as hell. We were sad for a long time. Because we know she qualified. But one thing I found out, I was the only black and all the rest were white. And we had a girl in class, and another girl in landscape. And I asked them their opinion. Even they were scared to talk about it. None of the boys would talk about it. I was the only one talking about it. Hey, man, how Mr. John get the job and Gwen don't get it and she's a turf major? Man, what's going on? Because I really didn't know what discrimination was back then. I learned the hard way. My third year I learned, as I going on tour. But I love Gwen and I'm sorry that happened to her. And I know you feel my pain because I feel your pain. But the same thing happened to me for 40 years. And I tried and tried and tried. And the longer I was in the industry, the worse it got. Just like Charlie Stafford said, the first PGA golfer, he wrote a book. And just like he said in that book, he advised no black to go to school for golf. he advised no black to make a career out of golf because Tiger Woods ain't everybody. Tiger Woods is 1 in 300 million. But he say until the government step in, he don't recommend a black trying to find a career in that. And I agree with Charlie Stanford because the longer I got in the industry, the worse it got. The older I got, the more they treat me like a 19-year-old illegal immigrant with no qualification. But they were letting me run a golf course 100%. I'm running the golf course. Only thing the ball man do, he make decisions like what coffee we gonna drink now, what toilet paper we gonna buy. But all the crucial decisions to keeping the golf course looking top notch, it was David. Except for they were making me do the work also. I was the mechanic. I was the spray tech. I was the fertilizer man. I was the chemical man, everything. You know what I mean? They kept me moving. So, yes, discrimination is real. And remember, golf is the least minority friendly industry probably on the planet. Thanks for listening. Take care.